Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. I'm Neil Smith, joined by Christian Crowe of Calvary Baptist Church. Christian, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Nils.
Yeah, so we met online, and you are in a unique role. Every time I see online campus pastor pop up in somebody's Facebook or in their profile, I'm always intrigued. As I lived in that world, and this podcast has been so much of documenting the world of online ministry. And Christian, it sounds like from our interactions that your journey into online ministry was unexpected and unplanned. And so I would love for you to share with people what about Calvary, about yourself, and really how you got into the role that you're in today.
Well, sure. Thank you. Let me see where to start. I played drums in a Christian rock band in the 90s in Nashville. And
what's the name of the band?
The band was called All Star United. And really mostly in the 90s, early 2000s, a touch, but not much.
It
was wonderful. It was a great opportunity. I traveled, I've been to all 50 states and about, I think 23 countries. And we had a blast. I really am still very close with many of the guys in the band. A couple of them are still in Nashville. And one of them is actually in Phoenix and is a music minister. So, when I retired from music, I wanted to have a successful relationship with a woman. Being on the road is a little difficult. And so fortunately, I was able to transition to telecom, and I started selling Nextel push-to-talk phones, and ended up getting hired by corporate Nextel and moving to Los Angeles. And right before that, I did get married. And so my wife and I moved to LA from Nashville. And I worked for Nextel for a while, which got acquired by Sprint, and worked for Sprint. And then in 2007, I got recruited over to Singular, which then became at&t. And I spent 13 years in at&t doing the whole telecom sales, technical sales, business to business kind of stuff. So I felt like I had two careers, two completely different careers. And then after COVID came about, my wife and I had been free to move around the country with at&t. And when you provide that kind of freedom to the company, they take advantage of it. So we went from LA to Phoenix to San Diego, and then we ended up in Atlanta. And while we were in Atlanta, the path for promotion would be to move to Dallas the next. And my daughter was in third grade. She had lived remotely from both sets of her grandparents her entire life. And I really wanted to gift her with the experience of growing up near family. Both my wife and I had that when we were kids. And so we just really wanted to give that to her. So we moved to Lake Havasu City, Arizona, which is kind of random. Never thought we'd live here. When we were living in Los Angeles in 2008, we ended up buying a home here because we wanted to buy property, but we didn't want to buy in California. And my wife's family was from Minnesota, and they had been snowbirds. So they had come to Havasu for every Minnesotan winter for about 4 years, each time renting a house. So we thought, well, let's buy a house in Havasu. We can kind of make it a family vacation spot. And when we were, back in Atlanta, and we were considering moving to Dallas, we said, well, let's move to the house in Arizona. And that way we can be closer to my parents who were living in Reno. My wife's parents would be there every winter. So we moved here in 2018. And then in 2020, I got laid off from at&t, which was something that we were aware of and knew was a very real possibility. Not being in a major metropolitan city for a big corporation like that, there wouldn't be too many promotion opportunities in a small town. But we were aware of that, and we knew the Lord would provide. So we moved here, got laid off, and I posted on Facebook that, end of an era. I'm no longer with at&t, and we'll see what God has next. And then moments later, I got a text from our senior pastor at the church asking if I'd ever considered a position on staff at a church. So what was funny about that, Niels, was when my wife and I got married, I had already done the Christian rock thing. I had transitioned to telecom, so she didn't know me when I was doing the musical stuff.
Yes.
Or she, we didn't know each other. We didn't date. But the one thing we kind of decided is that neither of us had. In fact, I remember having this conversation. I said, do you have a call to the mission field? And she's like, no. Do you? And I'm like, I don't think so. And I said, do you want to work for a church? And she said, no, not necessarily. And I said, good. Because my dad was a pastor, so I was a PK. And I had spent all this time in Christian entertainment, and just didn't really have a desire to go do that. So when I got the text from our senior pastor asking me if I'd consider a position on staff, I kind of looked at my phone, shocked, and immediately felt like, okay, Lord's got some plans here, And I remember telling my wife, and she had a very visceral response. We were sitting in bar stools, and she got off the bar stool and kind of cowered down and went, no, because she knew that then, that's what God had for us. So, so I've been here for about 2.5 years, and I love it. I love it so much. I am so fortunate, so blessed. I had, when I came here in 2018, been playing drums in the worship band. So I'd gotten the chance to know the pastoral staff and getting to know the people. So I already knew that I loved them as people. I knew that I loved the ministry. But coming on board, it just elevated the whole thing to be a part of it. So
And was the initial role online ministry, and where did that even fit pandemic timing wise? I mean, 2020 had the pandemic begun, or was it right at the front end of the pandemic? What was the timing there?
So I think we were, I don't remember, it was probably August timeframe. Pandemic kind of launched in March. And my role at at&t, I was overseeing part of our transportation department, where we sold vehicle tracking to companies, and all of my accounts were in California. So when the pandemic hit, we weren't allowed to travel and do face-to-face visits, so it was all phone, working from home. And that was really discouraging. It was really quite took the wind out of your sails to not be able to meet with your customers. And then when they did the layoff, it was they laid off about 5,000 people at that point. That's how they kind of do it. Big swaths of people. And the church had shut down, like so many churches across the country, and had pivoted to broadcasting online. And since I was playing in the worship band, I was kind of already privy to that, because we would get together and record the worship, and then they would edit it together. One of the brilliant things about our church was, since so many of our people that come to our church are snowbirds, they go back to Minnesota or Wisconsin or wherever. They went home to their churches, which were shut down, and they weren't broadcasting. But since we were broadcasting, a lot of those people, did I lose you?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. A lot of those people were still tithing, so we didn't see the huge drop in giving, such that we were able to, they were able to bring me on initially to oversee the online ministry and to try to, focus on it and continue to meet those people where they're at. So it was immediate when it came on. Yeah. That was a long answer.
Tell me
a quick question, I imagine. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, I think it gives unique perspective of, you took the natural path into online ministry of Christian rock band to 20 years in corporate telecom to online pastor. That's the normal path that we all take into online ministry. It is, and I think the reality is there is no normal path. It really is like it's God's unique path of, I think when you think about youth ministry and some of the traditional roles, I mean, that there is a more traditional path, but there's not one here. And there's not a definitive, like, this is the kind of experience you need. So where did you start? So as those, kind of keys were being handed to you, coming into a church staff role for the first time ever, where did you even begin? Was there some foundational pieces already in place, or did you have to build everything from the ground up?
So I was fortunate that they had already started broadcasting their services.
Okay.
So I kind of came in and took that ball and ran with it. I was hosting the online chat and do those types of things. I was amazed. There's one thing that I really love about working for a church and working to further the kingdom of God. One thing that I did not experience the same in telecom, but when I came to work for the church, I reached out to a few people, strangers, and they were people that were doing online ministry, so willing immediately to help in any way possible, just offering support. And some of the same people that you've spoken to, like Jeff Reed and Jake Randa and many others that, I'd shoot them an email or a text and they would point me in the right direction. A couple of them I met with over the phone, a couple I met with in person. And it was really encouraging to know that no one had it figured out. It wasn't like anyone had, I'm excelling and here's the formula you take. And it was just kind of this acknowledgement that it's the Wild West still, and what we're really trying to do is accommodate ministry when we can't be in person. And how do we do that? And the thing that I'm continually realizing is that it boils down to the opportunities for one-on-one connection, either if it's via text chat or over the phone or a video call like this. It's ministry at the end of the day. And the medium is different, right?
Yes. I love how you immediately kind of took your corporate experience in sales and relationships that way and kind of translated that to your ministry role. What, as you look back on the last couple of years, are there a couple of key ministry highlights that stand out to you of like, wow, I didn't expect this, but God moved in a unique way here through our online ministry that just blew me away?
I think I don't know if there's any major ones yet. But some of the comments that I get from folks that are online during a service, where they just acknowledge their appreciation from being able to enter into worship through a computer screen and still feel a part of a community when they're on their couch or they're in their their kitchen table, on their kitchen table. Just being able to make that connection, I think, is incredible. Also, we've had a couple instances where I haven't been able to go yet, but our senior pastors traveled to a couple of our locations where we have a small group of people that gathered together, and we'd be able to do baptisms. So he got to go up to Alaska and see some of our folks up there and some other parts of the country, and that's really cool. And then because we have so many people that come here during their winter time, we get to meet them face to face. I'm seeing it's a little choppy. I'm sorry about the internet here.
No, you're good. You're good.
So when we get to meet them face to face, and after I've already had a connection with them online, there's already a bond there that you feel like you already kind of have a brotherhood in some ways. Yeah, and then that just makes it that much closer when they're away, because a lot of those folks come here for 4 or 5 months and then go back and be at their home and then come back again. So we get to see them, about once a year.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's a unique opportunity, and even in your unique circumstance of how people engage with you physically and how the online can intersect with that. What do you, as you look, Christian, to the future of your online ministry, online campus, what are some of the things that you're dreaming for, hoping for into the future?
This summer, we're planning a couple of different regional calls. So we've divided the country up into 4 different regions, and we're going to try to create some community groups that way. So I'm looking forward to that right now. Kind of the plannings are working on that. Because it's kind of difficult to see everybody when you just see, I see names that reappear each week, and I know more and more of those names and more of their stories, but I want to connect them, especially ones that are closer. Speaking of Jay Cranda and Saddleback, and the way that they've been able to transition a lot of their individuals into community groups, and their drive and push to get those people into community and into a church. We kind of look at it as online as a means to an end, and the end being face-to-face community. I still see that as so valuable. And as much as I want online church to be a replacement for that, I really don't think it should be. I still think you need those people that when challenges come, that the comfort that can come from a squeeze and from the physical touch of somebody that's empathetic and praying for you is just so important, because only online and only individual situation can lead to some loneliness, and I don't want that for God's children.
I love that. I think it's so important to really define your ecclesiology of where do we want to take people and where do we not want to take people. And I think the perception often of online ministries or online campuses is that we're trying to get people to stop going to church and just do things online. And I think most online pastors, and Jay is a great example of this. He's always talking, how do we get people from digital to physical, and really get people in-person community. And there are some that really, they do want to solely exist online, and some people that will only and ever exist online. But I think it is important. I'm wired the same way. Of when we first moved to New York, we tried to be engaged in our community, in our church, just online, and it just wasn't healthy for our family. And so we stayed engaged with our old church, digitally, but then we found a local church to physically have a engagement within, because that was important to our family and for our kids, and for my wife and I to worship together and be in community face to face with other believers. And so online fits into that, but I think we're all also uniquely wired. And so I love how you're approaching that, Christian. What, as you look at your, basically your tool set, and one of the things I always encourage all my pastors is don't get so focused on the technology, but I am curious, what if there's one platform or one tool, one resource that has been most valuable to you, what would that tool be?
Yeah, there's so many that we utilize. I mean, we stream with Boxcast to Facebook and YouTube and the church online platform on our website. We use Facebook and Instagram for social media posts, and just now we communicate a little bit over Twitter, just trying to get back into Twitter again and investigating other platforms. I think the place where I'm having the most connection is actually during the live broadcast of our weekend services, because then I'm in the chat room with the folks, and when it comes time for prayer requests, and I'm encouraging them to pray, or to share their request, I pray with them. The church online platform, which I'm sure you're familiar with, if somebody requests prayer, you can jump into another little private room, and I really appreciate that. And I'm typing out my prayer or my prayer to them, and at first that felt really weird to type a prayer, but not so much anymore, because going back to the desire of my heart to really connect one-on-one and to minister with people in that regard, I think that's still very powerful. And I think what's really cool about that's different than audible prayer, is they can highlight it, copy it, and then paste that onto a note in their phone or on their tablet, or write it out on a Post-it, and take that prayer with them and continue to, not that my prayer itself is any kind of great, artistic expression. It's just that knowing that somebody is there, understanding your circumstances and holding you up to God, and asking for prayer, and praying with you. I think that's valuable. So I think that's probably the one area that I'm appreciating the most. But I'm not entirely certain. Let's see what happens with these community groups. I think that might give it a run for its money. The other thing too, Niels, and I do want to kind of get cut of your ear on this one, is I don't want to encourage people to spend more time in social media platforms. So I'm always there's this tug of war where I want to meet people where they're at, but I don't want to draw people into a platform, because I think as it is, we have too much of a tendency to get locked into a platform and then just doom scroll, and I think that can have a very negative effect on your spirit, So can I turn the tables on you and ask you
please,
about that?
Because,
I think you've had a lot more experience at this than I am, and I am a sponge. I'm still trying to learn where do we take this. What are you seeing as far as like a platform or as a space for people to be ministered to online?
Yeah, I think, and I love that question. The platform that I am really encouraging churches to lean into, and I would say maybe the technology, is video conferencing. And so whether that's Zoom or Google Meet, I think the more you can personalize connection, human to human connection with people, or help others connect with each other, the better. And I think it is different in a chat room than in a video conference. So you and I started our interaction in a messenger, in a chat function, but then we've now moved to a face-to-face, and I think that I feel like this is a way more personal of a connection than just seeing your photo and seeing your text, than hearing your voice and seeing your face and your expressions. And so I think the more we can move people digitally into the most personal form of engagement, and then too, if that can be face-to-face physically, even better. And so that's where I really am like, let's not get so focused on just being on YouTube or just being on some of these platforms where we can get tens of thousands of people there. Let's see if we can get tens of people on video conferences. And I think you're going to see a lot more life change that way than just using that broadcast. And so for me, it's really video conferencing is where I think is where the best ministry, the most fruitful ministry that I see happening is taking place.
I'm glad you say that, because I think that's where I'm leaning to as well. And these regional community calls we're going to do are going to be, video as well. We did some, we have life groups, of course, at our church. And my wife and I are active in our life group. And during COVID, we started doing that via Zoom. And, it's difficult at first, because especially if someone picks up a guitar, you try to sing, whoever microphone picks up the loudest voice, it jumps to, and it's kind of jarring. But it is really true that being able to see somebody's face and see the expression of whatever emotion they're conveying, whether it be empathy or sadness or joy, being able to see somebody's eyes, and it's really true. You do feel more connected to somebody, and I mean, you are connecting, right? You just not in the same physical space, but I agree with that. That's good.
Yeah. Is there anything, Christian, that you, as you've even taken some of your business, acumen of, being more proactive in relationships, is there anything from your music career and even performance and things like that you see translating online? Because one of the biggest challenges with that we've experienced through the years is the preaching translates through streaming, but music just isn't. It's definitely not the same as being in the room. What do you see maybe for the future of music or worship online, and being able to get that experience and create that spiritual experience maybe for those that can't be in the room?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. So I don't know if this is an answer, but since I'm also a drummer, I'm one of the drummers on the worship team at our church. And many weekends, in fact, this last weekend, I'll be doing my online hosting, and then I'll have to run out to the stage and go to the drum kit and play the worship. And then
I love that.
I actually there's about a 2-minute delay, sometimes less, but about a 2-minute delay from the time it happens in the room to the time it's seen on the screen. So sometimes we'll finish the worship set, and then I'll step back off stage and grab my laptop, and the worship song's still going, and I'll be able to see, people saying, praise God, or I love this song, or, this song really hits me in the right spot as far as the message. And then I'll be able to respond to them, and sometimes they're like, hey, aren't you playing drums? So it's kind of fun, but I don't know, because for me, I mean, without doubt, it enhances it to be in the room, but to be honest, music is more often experienced in a recorded mode than in a live mode. Even when we go see some of our favorite artists, if we get the chance to go see them in concert, that's fantastic. But even if we haven't seen them in concert, we love their music, we love their albums and their songs and stuff. So, and that's one of the things I love about one of the things about technology that I really enjoy. There are many that I don't necessarily enjoy, but one of the things I really enjoy is that I can just say, I can call out this name, starts with an A and also ends with an A, and I can say, play praise and worship, and it'll play praise and worship, I mean, I'm a pretty big geek. I have them in my cars as well, and we have one in almost every room, and then I've set up groups so I can say, play it in the everywhere group, and then every single room in my house is playing music, even on our patio. So, I'm one of these people that, for me, worship is a place that I want to spend most of my time. We're in my office right now, and I don't know if you can see, but I've got studio monitors, like computer studio monitors, and more often than not, I have to close my office door because it's loud in here, and I'm playing praise music loudly. So, I think it enhances it to be in the live room. But I don't think you don't think you really miss anything by hearing it being broadcast or live.
Yes. I love that perspective. It's so interesting to even think about online being all the time, that you can stream worship, and maybe it's not like worship and message at the same time, all the time. But maybe it's worship all the time and it's messages, mixed in, and but it's not Sunday at 11 only, that you're mixing that. And it's actually, we have access, more than we've ever had before, to worship experiences and environments that, I hadn't really even thought of it that way. I think sometimes we just have to, this is the challenge of online, is we take what we've always done in the room and just want to translate that to the internet. And sometimes the way we do things online is just different than the way we do things in a room. And sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's just different though. And so I love that.
What's interesting about that is that the conundrum that churches feel as far as meeting the online audience in the platform or in the method that is most suitable for them hearing. Some churches like North Coast and others will do a online only sermon where it's just a talking head like this, preaching the word. And ours still does, back of the room, showing the stage with a congregation, and I've heard it said that if you grew up in the church, you prefer to see the congregation and see the ceremony of the service. If you didn't grow up in a church and maybe, you've gotten more enlightenment out of TED Talks, then you might just prefer to see the preacher talking right to you. And I think from me, granted, I grew up in the church, and so to see the room and to see people entering into worship and see people raising their hands, that enhances it to me, because that feels like, I'm not the only one that's feeling the presence of the Spirit. It's people in that room. But also, like we were going back to earlier, my goal is to drive people into a room where people are in community, worshiping our Savior, and there's some pastor up there sharing, tidbits of wisdom that he's pulled from the scripture that week, because that's, I think, where we as Christians individually grow, is learning from others and experiencing that communal experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Christian, as we wrap up this conversation, your mind in this realm of online ministry is fresh enough to remember what it's like to get started. And when you feel like I don't know where to begin, and you got to lean into some guys like Jeff and Jay, as you were getting started, what advice would you have for that person that's just jumping into online ministry? They don't know where to really start. It feels like there's so many different directions to go. What advice would you have for that new person into online ministry?
Well, it's the same answer I would have for anybody. For instance, my mother and father who lived, I didn't even tell you that, but my parents ended up moving here and my wife's parents moved here. So now
no way. So that I get the family right there.
Yeah. So awesome. For the last 4 years, my daughter has been in proximity.
Perfect.
So she's in fact, my mother picked my daughter up today and took her to the Dollar Tree to buy some stuff or whatever. Just a little outings, But so my folks live up the street from me, and their garbage disposal went out. So of course I went to some big box store and bought a garbage disposal. Yep. And what did I do? I grabbed my little computer phone here and I typed in, how do you install this garbage disposal? And God bless these folks that take the time to film their installation of some product and then document it for me to learn from. Because, I think that's pretty much universal now. I don't think anyone's not aware that you can go to YouTube and find instructions to do anything. And that's so true with online ministry. People like yourself, God bless you for putting your learnings and then asking other people to share what they've learned and to make that readily available for others to download and digest. It's just amazing. It really is. So that's my first one, as I just go to YouTube and type in, how do I minister online, or what's the best platform, or whatever. And then once you start to see those people, following them on other social media, you've probably seen I'm following you on everything that you have now. So I hope that's not creepy, but a little bit. Yeah. So following people, and then the next logical step like this, right? Reach out and connect with those folks. And I would just tell anyone that's getting into it, especially if they came from an environment that's not like the church.
Yes.
My experience is that everybody that I've asked a question about has bent over backwards to assist me, and has always left the conversation with, anytime you need anything, you let me know and I'll try to do my best to get you an answer.
Yes.
And I've been blown away. In the telecom world and in the business world, that's personal information they spent years cultivating, and they hold that carefully. That's their secret sauce. They're not going to tell you what to do, because you're competition.
Yes.
But in the kingdom of God, we're all unified with our same goal here. And that's to point people to Jesus, and to exemplify his love in our behavior. So and that invite is out there. If anyone ever sees this and says, who's Christian Crowe, he doesn't know anything. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So, and thank you.
I love that. And
everything with me.
And always. And it is so true that this community of leaders in this space, have always been, I feel like, so generous and do want to collaborate and learn from each other, because in every conversation like this, we all are learning together. That's why I wanted, as we were having a private conversation, I was like, let's turn on the microphone and cameras and let's record it so that others can listen in as well. And it's so important. This podcast, actually, it started with DJ Chuang out of just his curiosity. And then Jay Cranda and I were, I remember we were having dinner at Jay's house with DJ, and DJ was like, wouldn't it be cool if people could listen to this conversation? And we said, let's set up a microphone and do that.
Yeah.
And this podcast was really developed out of that. So Christian, I want to tell everybody how they can find you and reach out to you. So where's the best place to connect with you online?
So I do have the URL, christiancrowe.com. It hasn't been updated recently, which I probably need to do that. And Crowe is Crowe. And then I'm on most of the services like Facebook. I'm at Christian Crowe. I'm at Christian Crowe on Twitter as well. Although I don't tweet much until just last week. We talked about that a little bit.
Yep.
And then the church is Calvary, and it's Calvary Lake Havasu City, but we do our URL is Calvary AZ because our goal is to expand from outside of Havasu. In fact, we have a church plant in Parker, Arizona, which is about 30 miles south of us, and we have some other things in the works. So yeah, calvaryaz.com. And then my email is christian@calvaryaz.com.
I love it. I love the generosity of you putting the email out there. And so go find, and it's Crowe, Crowe.
That's great.
For those that are searching for Christian online. We're going to have a link to all of those, to the church website and to Christian's website and social media handles at socialmedia.church in the show notes. So you can go there and get access to everything at socialmedia.church. Thanks, Christian, so much for your generosity and your time. And thanks everyone for listening. We will talk to you again on the next episode.
Thank you.